What's up, you guys? Coach Sarah here for my weekly weight loss chat with you. As ever, my intention is to ease your path so that you can enjoy your journey to your ideal body. I used to believe that for me to lose weight, I was gonna have to be in a lot of pain. So in my mind, weight loss meant grueling hunger. It meant restriction from all things that I wanted. And basically, for me, it was an idea of, okay, I'm here. My weight loss goal is there. Well, that's the promised land. But to get there is just going to be awful. So I just have to bite down and just do it. And this belief, I came by it honestly. So it didn't spring out of nowhere. My mother actually, she always struggled with weight, and I've shared this with the gym group before. So if you've been in our gym for a while, you probably know this story. But yeah, she both in her actions and in her words instilled in me this idea. So I had seen her go on several extreme diets. I'd seen her lose 100 pounds and gain it. And she'd also at one point told me that the only way she could ever lose weight was to eat 900 calories a day. So that was as a young girl that I was, through all of my upbringing, that's what I observed of her. And so that's what I believed. And trust me, because I believed it, I did a very good job of making it accurate. And by that, I mean, I went on my first diet when I was 10 years old. And I went on several diets after that. But so during my diet phase, I was definitely living out that as a truth. Like, this is hard. This is how life works. If you want to lose weight, you just got to struggle. But even when I decided, you know what, I'm done with diets, I'm going to eat intuitively, which if you don't know what intuitive eating is, it basically means going by your hunger and fullness signals as to how much you should eat. Intuitive eating in and of itself is meant to reject any kind of diet mentality. But even in that practice, I still brought that belief to how I practiced it. Whenever I would eat, because in my mind I was still trying to lose weight, even though I was saying okay, I'm just gonna honor my hunger and fullness. And I would always, when I was in a cycle of trying to lose weight really hard, I would make sure that I was still hungry when I left the table, which does not make for a very satisfied intuitive eater. I can tell you that much. And so yeah, like I said, because I believed this, I did my darndest to make it true, to make it accurate. Now, beliefs like this, they are like maps. They are like maps in our minds that we create of how the world works. So imagine you're walking into a dark room and you have no context, you have no idea what's in the room, but your job is to go in there and start making a map and drawing what is in the room. When you walk in there, you begin feeling around, and then you maybe feel something, you're like, okay, it feels like this, and you're drawing it and whatever. And then let's say somebody else walks in and they bring in a flashlight and they shine it on what you were looking at. And suddenly, because you can see more than just what you're feeling, suddenly you have this bigger image. Maybe you thought something was like a pole, and then it turns out it was a chair, and you just didn't know. That's how these kinds of beliefs are. We come into this world, so at a very, you're born, you have no context for what's going on in the world, and you immediately begin drawing mental maps, we'll say, of how the world works. The first person to walk in with a flashlight for you is your parents, right? So these beliefs, these are laid down early in life. They can also be laid down later in life. You can develop these kinds of beliefs at any point, but the large majority of them, I find, usually start in childhood. And these beliefs, they're called limiting beliefs. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but what I'm describing to you is a limiting belief. And a lot of these belief structures, as I said, we develop when we're kids. So you've got no context for the world. Your parents are your first your first introduction to it. And so you start drawing your mental map based on what you learn from your parents. And that's how life is meant to be. So that's not a bad thing at all. That's what your parents are there for. However, the challenge is, as children, we have the least amount of resources to make sense of what we're seeing and what we're learning. So we're the most vulnerable. We have zero context. We really have no way of comparing what we're learning yet. And we're also the most believable. Like we want to believe whatever, we all know it's like before a certain age, whatever your parents say is true. And then at some point you start to develop more cognitive skills, and suddenly, you become a teenager and you become a little bit critical, like, wait, I don't think that's true. But that's basically where we get a lot of our limiting beliefs is early on. They're maps that we make of the world to make sense of it. And it's not until we get out into the world, we develop more, we become more mature, that we go out into the world, and then we begin to compare our map to another map. So this process is kind of similar if you've ever been following Google Maps, like you're using their nav system and somehow they're wrong. That moment where you're like, Google Maps is wrong. What? How can this be? But it takes you a moment, right? You're like, wait a minute. What? That's not right. And so identifying our limiting beliefs and ultimately picking them apart, sometimes it's easier than others. So this video is actually going to be a multi-part series where I break this down. The example that I have of the power of a limiting belief is actually in the animal world. If you've ever seen elephants in captivity, sad as it may be, and I'm not talking, we will leave that as a different topic. But if you ever see like a circus elephant, for example, they're usually the quintessential image you see is of the elephant tied to a post or tied to a little pole stuck in the ground. And it's kind of a ridiculous image because that elephant is so massive. All it has to do is just walk away, like just walk that way and just move yourself that way. You'll take that pole with you, like you're free. But what happens is those elephants are tied to those posts when they're really little and they're not strong enough to move. And so as they get older, they just begin to take for granted that this pole, this is just my life and it's too strong and I'll never be able to break free from it. And so they don't. That is what these limiting beliefs do to us, right? As children, or maybe even as an adult, sometimes we create these limiting beliefs or we take them on because for whatever reason, we don't have the information or the resources to be able to think otherwise. And then we just assume them. And then lo and behold, you're trying to lose weight and you can't. And you have no idea why. You just know, like, I just can't do the things I need to do. And you're stuck. And it's hard. It's very hard, especially if it's something that you imprinted early on in life. Being able to identify that, first off, is a struggle. It is such a struggle. And I can tell you that's a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is just trying to identify what's your limiting beliefs, and is there a different way to look at this? What if we put these up against other options? Are there maybe better options out there? Something that, you might not have thought of. And so I'm not going to keep going. I'm going to leave this discussion here because, as I said, in the next video I do next week, I'll start to talk about how to identify your limiting beliefs and how to ultimately question them and replace them with more empowering beliefs. So if I could leave you with anything right now, it would be to just ask you generally, now knowing if you've never heard of what limiting beliefs are, can you identify some limiting beliefs that you might have? I know a big one for a lot of my clients is just weight loss is hard. Just that, like, weight loss has to be hard. And you might be hearing this and be saying, well, yeah, it does. Duh. Then I would say, you've identified your first limiting belief. So yeah, that's what I've got for you today. Hope you have a great week. Comment below if you've got if you already know some limiting beliefs that you have and you want to share. Definitely get the conversation with me started. But other than that, I'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.